Welcome back to the Zach Jelleb channel, ladies and gentlemen. We have returned. I am back from the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen.
Deary me.
And I'm joined by my two favourite men in the world, Henry Hill and Patrick Van Straten. Pato, how have you been over the last couple of weeks?
I've been all right. I turned 35.
Yes, you have.
Yeah,
This week. Happy
I'm a
birthday,
big
my
boy
friend.
now. It's I know. I didn't really have a crisis when I turned 30, but the other day I said to my wife, I was like, I'm 35, and she was like, yeah. And I was just like, no. I don't think you're getting what I'm saying. But no, it's good to still be in your top two favourite men after you've been on the Chelsea tour, where you're now like best friends with Enzo Maresca.
We are good buddies. He likes to tap me on the shoulder quite a lot, which was nice.
He's Italian, though, right?
Yeah, he is Italian. But for some reason, I keep thinking he's Argentinian.
Sure.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because we had Poch.
You've got another Enzo as well.
Exactly, he's Argentinian, exactly. Henry Hill, how have you been, my friend? You haven't turned 35, but...
No, I am turning 30 soon, and I did have a oh my god,
How soon?
What November?
So you're not a Leo.
No,
Leo season for you.
Yeah, I did have a thing of oh my god, what is going on? So it's sort of like a number you never think you'd reach. Not in like a kind of rock and roll way, but in
in the Joey Tribbiani, I had a deal with God. Like, why have you done this to me? Like, yeah, I know.
Just there's a few moments when I was traveling, when I was away. I've been in hostels, and I look around I am so much older than everyone else here. But it's fine. It's fine. It's great, and it's good to have you back. I saw actually you saw Rudiger. You spoke to Rudiger again.
I did speak to Rudiger. Yeah.
Did you sob on his shoulder and say, "I miss you"?
Why did you leave us? No, to be fair, it was a nice, very quick catch up. Obviously, literally like we're best mates.
Was it how's family, Zach?
It was good. It was very much. I'd done a few things with him before. We had a
nice.
nice quick chat. He was very nice. He almost absolutely wiped out in Kunku, but didn't in the end, which could have been bad for the beginning of Chelsea's season. But yes, as you guys can see by the title of this video, we are talking about transfers and overrated ones. Arguably Pat's favourite topic.
Yeah, bro.
What I've done is on social media, if you haven't followed us on there, then make sure you go over to the app. Well, this was out on Twitter. However, I don't know how much longer I'll be on that app, that's for sure. I put a tweet out asking what have been the most overrated transfers so far this summer window, and you guys got back to me and basically suggested every transfer that's happened so far. So we're going to go through them, just a few of them, and the ones that was suggested the most, and give our opinion on if we agree or if we disagree. And so without further ado, we'll kick it off with the guys at the Ball Draw podcast. They do some really good content over there. And they have said Onana. Now, they weren't the only person to say about Amadou Onana. They said they're not sold on him, and he's definitely a downgrade on Luiz. Now, I know a certain Dutchman who might disagree with that statement.
I don't think he's a downgrade on Luiz. I think he's a downgrade in specific areas. Mm-hmm. He is less of a safe possession guy. Like, Douglas Luiz is really a guy who's going to keep it ticking over in midfield, but he's not a particularly incisive passer. I think last season kind of got overpraised for his end product, largely because he got a bunch of penalties. And kind of a little bit lucky on his expected assists. But I don't know. I don't really think he was much of a defensive presence. And I think that when you look at the shape of Villa's season, what maybe cost them, like going higher still, was the defence.
Yeah.
Like you look at their numbers at the end of the season, and the attack is really, really good. The attack is like not far away from the top teams. It's not going to reach the top teams, I don't think, but it's very, very good. The defence is still quite poor. I think they were 12th or something for defence, like on expected goals conceded. Well, to me, the answer there is let's try and improve the defence. Like, that's where you've got a massive edge that can be gained. And I think Onana is a way bigger defensive presence. He's much rangier, obviously much more of a ball winner, also can win headers in midfield. Plus, when Tielemans played last season, I don't love Tielemans, but Tielemans' passing numbers were
decent,
were everything that Luiz had, and his defending numbers weren't really worse.
Yeah.
And I think if you shore up the back line, which is something that they've really been trying to do, then even if you lose a little bit of passing from Onana, it doesn't really matter. Plus, Douglas Luiz was at a stage in his career where you were like, this is the player. Like, he can go to a better side maybe, but I don't think he can be a better player. Whereas Onana is already a pretty good Premier League player. I don't think he's amazing, but I think he's a pretty good Premier League player, and he's got bags of potential. He's got loads and loads of physical ability as well. So I think that this is a big change, and I also wouldn't be surprised if Villa take a bit of a step back, just because
They're playing the Champions League as well now.
and they're changing over like half their starting 11. You know, like Diaby's gone, Luiz is gone. Obviously, there'll be a new left back. They still might be trying to get a new right back. If Joao Felix comes in, he'll expect to start in the attacking midfield. Like, there's loads and loads and loads of change there. So it wouldn't be surprising to see them take a step back. But if they do, it's not going to be because Onana's worse than Luiz.
How do we look at that, as you mentioned there is a lot of changeover. How do we look at that Villa side kind of lining up? Because I guess Kamara was someone who started the season really well for them last year, then he got a really long-term injury, meant he was out for at least basically half a season. It is a big change-up, isn't it, Henry, when you start to kind of think about that whole midfield? Basically, the only one that still might be there is John McGinn. Does Kamara start with Onana?
Well, Ramsey was coming back as well.
Ramsey, true.
I think it's exciting. It's exciting, and I think they are going to have to rotate that squad, so it's not necessarily a problem.
Yeah.
So,
the quality of squad is definitely improving.
Yeah, absolutely. I still think that the core of that team that was so successful is still there, starting with the goalkeeper. The centre halves haven't really shifted around at all, and then with Ollie Watkins leading the line, I still think they need another striker in there just to support Ollie Watkins, because he's going to have to play a huge number of minutes really next season. I know we got a lot of criticism for not saying Leon Bailey was as good as he was last time. So I mean, I
thought we did compliment Bailey.
Yeah,
I didn't quite understand it. But
I think
Still quite patchy.
I think the core of the team is fine. I think you just got to be brave sometimes. And Aston Villa are in a moment now where they can really take a leap forward. And they've got to be brave and put in players and believe that they've upgraded in certain areas. In terms of this transfer, it's a lot of money. 60 million euros that they've spent on him. And actually, I thought in the Euros for Belgium, if teams could isolate him, he did look quite vulnerable. He did look. I thought Slovakia in that opening game were really good at dealing with Onana and sort of isolating him and pinching the ball. So I think he needs players around him to really complement him. But I completely agree with what Pat said. Like, Yuri Tielemans has a level up from what we saw last season. He's been a great player for a reason for a number of years at Leicester and Monaco before that. I think Yuri Tielemans could take on more responsibility in that squad and fill that Douglas Luiz role void. So yeah, I think we're going to see a better season from him, complemented by Onana. And I mean, for me, to be honest, John McGinn needs to play a bit better than he was last year. So yeah, I'm pretty content with this transfer, even if it is a loss of money.
Yeah, I mean, Everton spent a lot of money to get him there in the first place, like 40 odd million, wasn't it? So they're only going to sell him for a little bit of a profit. Let's jump over to Logan Kenny's suggestion here, and it's one of Arsenal's. Well, it's Arsenal's new boy, Calafiori. He says he's a good defender, but feels undermining Timber, who's come back from injury. I think actually post this, that's what Arteta say, he might have been injured again, but I don't think it's a long-term one. He says we've got too many other left-backs on Arsenal's books at the moment, which could be disrupting for the locker room. I think he'll ultimately end up second choice by the end of the season. Calafiori was someone who I think before the Euros, I don't think Arsenal were looking at. I don't think many people were really talking about him too.
I think they would have been looking at him.
You think?
Yes. I don't think... the way that Arsenal recruit now, I don't think that anybody's recruiting on the basis of just the Euros.
Because I also massively in front of everyone.
But I think it's his role for Bologna that makes much more sense for Arsenal, right? Like, you've got this left back stepping into midfield, and then sometimes even joining into like a bank of attackers behind the centre forward. So like that may all make sense for that role for them.
How much did they spend on him in the end?
40 million euros.
40 million euros. It's like a pretty good
today's
price.
day and age, really isn't too
I
bad.
don't really. I mean, maybe look. I to be honest, like, haven't really seen much talk about Calafiori, and I myself was like not crazy excited about it. Not because I think it's a bad signing. I'm just like, a bit. It was a long season last year, so I was like, okay, yeah, but. Is it an upgrade on Kivior? Probably. Is it a defensive upgrade on Zinchenko, even if it's a passing downgrade? Yes.
Yeah. Did score yesterday against Bayer Leverkusen.
Sure. And yeah, I love Zinchenko. I still think there's a use for him. But like Timber as well. Like, as we're just talking about, there's going to be more rotation than ever this season. Champions League is going to be grueling this year.
Especially
and Timber,
as well.
And even if Timber is first choice backup at left back, first choice backup at right back, first choice backup to Saliba, he's going to see plenty of minutes this season. Like, that doesn't concern me at all. I guess I don't think it's overrated because I don't really hear anyone saying like this is the signing that's going to win Arsenal the league.
If anything, they're saying the opposite.
It's just a good signing, like, and I think I do agree that Arsenal probably need to sell someone. Like, I think they're trying to sell Kivior. I think they'd be happy to do that. If they do that, I don't really see what the problem is.
I remember a few weeks ago you saying that I think the bigger issue from this would be if getting him in meant that you guys didn't go and get a midfielder in. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I do think that's.
And again, I don't feel like anything's kind of happening there right now.
I think we're interested in players, and we seem to be selling guys and building up.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if City had done this transfer, no one would bat an eyelid. Everyone would be like, oh, they've just added more quality to their back line. I think we have to remember, like, Kivior was fine as a signing, but it's not like an elite level signing. We're now seeing Arsenal double up in every area. Like, this should be an exciting addition. And 40 million euros isn't that much. I'm slightly nervous because he was, at Roma, then he went to Basel, then he went to Bologna.
He's had some bad injuries as well.
Played in a very specific system in Bologna and has now been successful. Like, we've seen a lot of that Bologna team leave as a result of kind of the Motta effect that's had on that side. So I'm slightly nervous to see whether or not that's going to translate into the Premier League, his success. But he was also quite fun to watch at the Euros as well. So my point is, like, how can you criticise Arsenal just levelling up? Doubling up, at the back line. I think this is, for not a groundbreaking amount of money, I think it's fine. And as you say, they're selling a lot of the deadwood in their squad, building up some cash. And I'm sure the window's long, dominoes are falling everywhere. Like, we'll see something happen.
And I think I might have it in the title, but this is very much kind of like so far in the summer window. We always see once the season starts, very quickly, clubs also still get very active in the market. And by the end of the transfer window, you might see a brand new player.
And the Euros pushed it back as well. I mean, there are so many teams who went into this summer knowing they needed a player in a specific position, and it hasn't been done yet. So, like, Man United needed a number 6, hasn't been done yet. Liverpool needed a number 6 at the time of recording, hasn't been done yet. Chelsea wanted a striker at the time of recording, looks like it's going to be done, but still hasn't been done. So all these teams with these major positions of need, like City are just selling Alvarez now, they're presumably going to go out and do some other stuff after that, unless they're just right, we just roll with Savinho and another year of Doku and hope Grealish comes back. I mean, it's one of those things where.
Mika Marino, by the way, is pretty much almost a done deal.
That does seem
for
like
Arsenal.
That's happening, doesn't it?
And that's great as well, because not only is he good, not only does he fill the role that they need, he's also played with Odegaard before, and it's sort of.
Well,
found that funny, did you? Or, did you laugh at that? Or,
no. I was taking his
my cup away. The idea of Marino and Odegaard.
We're recruiting out of Sociedad right now, and also, it's a long season. It's going to be a complicated season, but Arsenal beat Bayer Leverkusen 4-1 in pre-season yesterday. Arsenal have signed a £40 million defender.
Yeah.
Like Henry says, where it's not make or break. Can you not just enjoy it a little bit? If there are people saying this is the signing that wins Arsenal the league, I agree it's overrated. But until I hear that, I think it's just fine.
With the Champions League, not only do you have 2 more group games, including one more away game.
It's going to be playing against better opposition.
If you don't finish in the top 8 of the group stage phase, you then have to go into another 2-leg playoff. So that's 4 more games that are required to win the Champions League, and actually 4 more games to what you'd regularly expect of the big teams to be involved in anyway.
Yeah.
It would take 17 games to win the Champions League if you contested every match.
Was it previously 12?
It used to be 13. It's almost half a season just flying around Europe
and playing top sides.
Yeah, you got a much better chance of playing Real Madrid and stuff like that a lot earlier on as well. Teams definitely need to be improving their depth. And I think for years as well, that's been one of the things we've said about Arsenal and depth. They do need to improve on that. So I don't think Calafiori is the answer there for the most overrated transfer so far this summer. This one comes from Ash Young. And they've suggested Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Chelsea spent £300 million on massive midfield recruits in the last few windows, and you can guarantee he will start because he's Maresca's guy. Where was the plan? Interesting. Because essentially, I guess he's saying that because of the money that Chelsea spent over the last few years, that's the bigger reason, not necessarily that Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is a bad player. But from one of the key things I've taken from the Chelsea pre-season is that they do need the guys that understand how Maresca wants to play his football. Okay. This football is only going to work if there is an actual understanding on how to get things done.
That's a lot of weight on Dewsbury Hall to be the figurehead of that process.
100%.
Coming up from the Championship. Again, I don't think the fee's crazy.
Yeah, 32 mil, wasn't it?
I really like Dewsbury Hall. I think he's a good player. Is he elevating that squad to another level? I don't know. But at the same time, I look at all of Chelsea's transfer business and I don't really know what's going on sometimes. So it's Omarodion, who's had one good season. Alvarez, 20 years old, like very exciting. Let's see. I think, Dewsbury Hall works in the sense that, yes, clearly Maresca has a certain style of play that he wants to execute, and he's now got one of his men in to kind of be a figurehead of that process. Is Dewsbury Hall a big enough name to step into that midfield next to the likes of Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez and say, guys, follow my lead? That's where I really struggle with it. But at the same time, I actually just really like the player, so I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, and it's not a huge amount of money.
This is the thing. How many times Chelsea spent 120 mil on Enzo? And I think it's tough to say he's been worth that so far.
You've spent like 40 mil on goalkeepers this summer.
There you go. Right, we spent a lot. There's been a lot of money spent in general.
You have 8 first-team goalkeepers now.
I mean, I've seen that stat. I mean, it's
no, but that's literally true. You keep signing more goalkeepers.
Yeah, I mean, Ted Kurd's in there. Who's like,
I keep thinking about your weekly wage bill at the moment. I'm like, where?
Yeah.
They must be on borrowing like inheritance money at this point. I don't understand like how they're possibly paying like Kepa's on something stupid.
Yeah, well,
by himself.
Oh yeah, he's still there.
I do think you forget that. I think I saw a chat about him going to Saudi for a long time, and then in the end, but he was waiting for.
I think that was Chelsea being like.
Oh, seemed to trying to push.
Would anyone in Saudi be interested?
You know when that guy brought down Bearing's Bank, the rogue trader? I'm assuming that Chelsea.
About Madoff.
Not Madoff. Well, I'm just assuming there's like some side bank for Chelsea where they're just like hiding losses. Do you know what I mean? So
I mean, they're just like flogging stuff, aren't they? To other like the left hand flog stuff to the right hand. It feels with Chelsea. Like, look, obviously they're going to ruin Zach's career, but like to go back to Dewsbury Hall, like I don't like the signing. I think it's like money you didn't need to spend. I completely agree. Like, I don't really buy the thing of like you need somebody there who knows how Maresca plays. Like, these guys are high-level players who played under Pochettino and Tuchel. Like, they can take tactical instruction. Part of what separates like good players from great players is the ability to take tactical instruction. It's not just like your raw ability on the pitch. Plus, I just think that this role could feasibly be taken by somebody else. If it's like the attacking role in a kind of midfield 3, Chukwuemeka could do that if he's fit. I think that Nkunku could potentially do that. It just feels like a weird thing to be like, right, well, we've got to carve out one space in here for Dewsbury Hall. KDH. That seems, and he's not even like young. He's like
25,
peak.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he's a peak
25.
player.
Yeah.
I don't personally get it. But again, I've only really heard people saying, yeah, I don't really get this transfer.
Yeah,
so I don't see how it's overrated.
Like
everyone's kind of... the one thing that I don't like about it is I think that Dewsbury Hall is unlikely to be the difference between Chelsea getting Champions League football and not getting it. But I do think he could have been the difference between Leicester getting relegated and staying up. So I'm a bit sad that this move happened from that point of view. But like, I'm yet, if people are saying he's like one of the signings of the summer, it's overrated. But I haven't heard anything along those lines.
There's a little bit of me that has like a. There's a little bit of me that has like a bit of a. I don't know. There's something I think he might. I really liked him.
Really, there's a part of you that thinks it might be amazing. Shocker.
I know. Shocker.
Enzo Maresca tapped me on the shoulder, and now I'm a true believer.
Maybe. But I don't know. I just remember thinking this like in his first season for Leicester. I know when they got relegated, I thought he was one of the best players in that team, along with James Maddison. James Maddison got stolen, and I think he could have easily been taken by any team and would have improved a lot aside last year. He ended up staying.
Like Chelsea.
Was the best player in the Championship, arguably. And so I don't know. I think there's maybe a little bit of a surprise for him this season. We'll see.
Just on the subject,
He'll be good.
Quickly on the subject of Leicester, I sent this to you yesterday. They are heavily linked, Fabrizio linked with Fabio Carvalho, which is the dream transfer, which I recommended for Leicester.
You did.
I'm only excited about this because over the last 5 years, we've often been sat here and recommended transfers to clubs, and 99.9% of them have never happened. If Fabio Carvalho to Leicester is the one prediction that comes in strong, I will be so happy.
And you ended up getting your... you backed him for years, Big Emil Smith-Rowe.
Wow.
But we will...
we'll see.
We will get... let's jump onto Emil Smith-Rowe then, because someone here, Joshy36, has said Smith-Rowe to Fulham.
What, as one of the worst transfers?
Overrated.
It's the overrated that trips you up here. Like, if you say it's a bad transfer, we can have an argument. You say it's overrated...
Well, this is what I think he's saying more so bad.
Can I destroy him in 5 minutes?
Well, I'll quickly give you his reasoning.
I'll give you
his reasoning. He's been injury prone for a while and not worth the 30 to 35 million pounds that he cost. He's not going to get the output that Fulham will need from a player to try to keep them up this season.
Right. It's 27 million pounds as a starting fee. Which
Yeah,
for
three
Smith,
3 million difference.
which for Smith Rowe, for someone that's hit double figures for Arsenal in the Premier League, for someone with the pedigree that he's had through his junior years, is unbelievable. Yes, he hasn't played a lot of football. Is that entirely his fault over the last year? No, he's still been training within that Arsenal system, still been soaking and learning from other players around him. He's come to Fulham, which is actually a pretty easy place for these players to arrive to. He's got Leno, he's got Iwobi, who he's clearly good friends with.
Scored in pre-season.
Within 7 minutes, he scored in pre-season. I'm not going to read into that too much.
So it was exactly the Smith Rowe thing that you expect to see, right? Off ball, like, plays a good part in like bringing the movement and then off ball movement into the box to get on the end of a chance. Like, it's exactly what you want from him.
He is going to have so much responsibility on him because he's really only competing with Willian on the left-hand side for minutes.
Did Willian stay?
I think Willian is still there and he's like 34 years old. I do not understand on what planet this is a bad transfer for anyone. The add-ons aren't even crazy. I imagine it's like survival this year and a little bit more than that. If you think of how little we played for Leno, if you balance across those two transfers, I'm actually pretty buzzing about it all. Smith Rowe, he's going to play under a good manager. He is going to have so much responsibility on his shoulders. I'm really excited for this transfer. I'm absolutely buzzing. I can't believe we've signed him. I can't believe, like, if you told me a few years ago.
But you were on him for a long time. Remember, you pushed him to Brentford for ages.
I can't believe it. I was manifesting him to Brentford for ages. Little did I know that Fulham were waiting around the corner. No, this is not an overrated transfer at all. It's good money. And at the end of the day, if he looks good and we get relegated, then someone will come in and pay 25, 30 million
back
for him again. We almost don't lose money on this transfer, and we don't lose enough money to be significantly bothered by it.
Does the injury record concern you? Because
it does a little bit, but he's not been injured last season. Like, seriously, he's just been not playing because he's not been able to break into an Arsenal squad which was pushing for the league, and that's completely fair enough. There's loads of players who've been injured and managed to bounce back. It's just a case of maybe a year off football will give him time to kind of rebuild. I'm not sure. Look, I haven't seen his medical. Clearly, Fulham have had a good look at him and decided this is worth the money because this is a record transfer for Fulham. Let's be serious. And it's a record sale for Arsenal too. So Fulham aren't going to spend this money frivolously because we don't have loads knocking around. I just don't genuinely see how this is a problem whatsoever. He's going to get loads of minutes and people have been quite down on Fulham. I'm less down on it at the moment. I think he's going to have a huge role for our team next year. And if he looks good, then he's worth double the money we paid for him.
Mm-hmm. No, I like the move. I really do. I think he's a player that has been quite unfortunate, especially throughout his career, just with injuries and then, timing of things. And I think when he's on top, he could be a really good addition to this Fulham side. But they still need a striker, that's for sure. Unless Muniz is going to become incredible again.
Well, he's been given the number 9 shirt, so watch out.
Yeah, watch out indeed. Back to Morgan Turner Green then, who suggested another Fulham player, Palhinha to Bayern Munich. Just not good enough for the ball and won't look as good when he won't have to defend as much, so he's not flying in with tackles all the time. He thinks that transfer was overrated. They spent in the end, Henry,
60 million,
55
million euros
for someone who is 29. Was he 29 in the end? So a lot of just double check really quickly on his age.
He's about 28. He's about 28, 29. I can understand, but at the same time...
29.
He's post-peak.
Yeah, 29.
They did leak a lot of goals last season, Bayern Munich. They were not as solid as we've seen them in previous years. I know that Tuchel had a problem with Kimmich or Goretzka really being the proper shield that he wanted in front of that back line. They've now got a guy that will just... When other teams do break, when other teams do manage to get through that kind of first line of Bayern Munich's press... He will be there just to try and wipe them out, and he's a fairly singular functional player. He's not going to reinvent the wheel for Bayern Munich. Look, they've been crying out for this kind of player, and they've got it. Yes, they've paid quite a lot of money for a guy that they'll only get maybe
really well.
4 years out of it. And actually, Marco Silva used to get annoyed with him because he would go flying into challenges and leave players out. He would kind of distort the midfield. He wasn't very structured as positionally as a player. And apparently Marco Silva used to pull his hair out being like, I wish this guy would just kind of stay in the positions he's meant to be in. Yeah, I think I'm surprised that they pursued this transfer once again, but I don't know. It's Bayern Munich, it's fine. What do you think, Pat? I've talked too much.
I think he's overrated by somebody in the Bayern Munich hierarchy because the fact that they thought this is the guy for Tuchel ball, and then they changed manager, and they still thought he was the guy they wanted to get, even though he's a year older and the price is basically the same. Like, I mean, that to me is overrated. But again, I've seen more people laughing at this transfer than I've seen people hyping it up. to me, they've got bigger worries. Like, I think hiring Vincent Kompany is such a huge swing that could pay off or could be a calamity.
It's one or the other, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just like, so I don't know. I mean, like, if the thing is, if Kompany is bad, Palhinha will actually kind of be a useful signing. Because like when a team has no structure and is badly coached, then having a guy who can just relentlessly win the ball in midfield helps a lot. Whereas if, Kompany is actually like doing this, like, Pep like juego de posición, like kind of like clever, like interchanging football, then I think Palhinha is going to be a problem because as Henry says, he's not positionally disciplined and he also doesn't really have the on-ball skill to do that. But again, I'm not really seeing anybody like going overboard about it. Though, to be honest, the fact that Bayern are spending all their money on this and that they've got Kompany in does make me think maybe Leverkusen can win another title. Yeah.
The only one more thing I'll say on this. One thing I'll say on this is that a lot of Bayern's problem is that the starting 11 has been so set in stone for a long time, and any time they've brought in sort of less midfielders, Konrad Laimer, Sabitzer, none of them have ever been able to disrupt the Kimmich, Goretzka presence in midfield, and I think that's had a negative impact on managers because ultimately there's been too much player power in that Bayern Munich squad. I think spending a lot of money on a Portuguese starting, well-established central defensive midfielder kind of goes to the other two. Look, you can't be bullshit anymore about this. Either you play better or you go, because they've really needed to freshen up that squad for a while, and they're doing it. The Olise transfer, they're spending big money on interesting players like Gnabry, Sane. They're going to have to look at this and go, right, Coman as well. We have to be better because they've taken their positions for granted for too long in that Bayern side.
And I think Bayern publicly have kind of said before, like, if somebody wants one of these players and is willing to give us the money, like, we will let them go. Like Goretzka for a long time, Kimmich, we saw basically them trying to fish him off to Barca for ages. Gnabry and Sane, both this season, I think, this summer window have been kind of touted. Even Kingsley Coman, I saw recently linked to Chelsea on a loan move for the season.
But the difficulty is that Bayern have always been like slightly full of shit about how smart they are with money. So they're like, we don't pay big fees, but they do pay big wages. Goretzka came in on a free, huge wages. Kimmich has gradually gone up and up and up until he's earning huge wages. Obviously, the wingers, huge wages. And that's the reason they can't shift any of these guys. But it's interesting to see them now kind of run the... it's kind of like the Alex Ferguson transfer playbook. As in, they're like, who are the players on mid-table Premier League sides who we think could play at a high level? Let's go and get 2 or 3 of them and see what happens. They'll be fine next season, but I don't think the thing with the Palhinha signing is I think if they got the right guy, then it could easily have then it would have made me think Bayern are back as like comfortable title favourites next season, and Leverkusen will have to like have another miraculous season to beat them. Whereas instead, what it makes me think is that's an open charge. Like you've got a shot.
Yeah.
Even Dortmund. Because Dortmund doing good signings as well, bringing in Bayer, like they're just generally strengthening. To be honest, like I think Dortmund having a good summer.
Yeah, I think Leipzig's managed to get Xavi Simons back as well on loan, which will be interesting to see how that works out.
Can we get crazy money for Olmo?
Yeah, crazy money for Olmo. Then what's his face? Appenda.
Is Olmo on the list actually?
He is later on. Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't like that.
Because I don't like that. We want to talk about that right now.
Well, go on. Let's jump on to.
Go on,
Olmo.
yes. Let's talk about Dani Olmo. I completely agree.
Barcelona.
I like the player.
Bringing back another La Masia graduate. Spent, I think, what's the official fee that's going to happen? Is it 60?
About 60 million euros.
60 million
55, 60 million euros. Add-ons is the big word of the summer. I swear never before have I seen so many add-ons. Every club's like,
that was
all
the
right.
previous one.
I love it. You know what they need to start doing reporting as well? Say what the add-ons are. Like, is it they've got to win the league and the Champions League?
I don't think they know.
Is it just...
But also, we all know that they report it how they want to report it, right? Like, so if the selling club leaks it, then it's like, we're getting 35 million from Emile Smith-Rowe. And if Fulham leak it, they're like, we're paying 27 million for Emile Smith-Rowe. And another 8 million if he wins the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, yes, complete.
Did you not see as well how they did the currency thing with Connor and Meridian? How it was like, Connor's going for 42 million euros and Chelsea are buying him for
34.5 million pounds. So you're like, let me plug that into my currency converter. That's weird. That's weird. What a coincidence.
But go on then. Dani Olmo, Henry. Why are you not a fan?
First of all, I don't have any issue with the player. I think he's technically very good. The problem is they were linked with Nico Williams for so long, and when you thought about that for a hot minute, reuniting him and Yamal on the wings.
Sick.
One more year of Lewandowski. This Vitor guy they've got in, everyone's very excited by. This like €3 million Spanish striker. Considering they spent 40 million on Vitor Roque and he's just not done anything.
Well, have you seen his agent being
his agent's amateur. Anyway, it's. I just don't understand where Olmo. They're just like so narrow now. They're just back to being a super narrow side. They've just got loads of midfielders who roughly do the same thing. They're going to be tripping over each other. I mean, it's fine in the sense that Olmo's been playing for Spain. He'll know Pedri. He'll know Gavi. He'll integrate pretty well. But they were just crying out for a bit of width on that right-hand side. And they haven't got it. They just haven't got it. And I don't rate Rafinha. Left-hand side, sorry. I do not rate Rafinha particularly highly. I do not particularly rate Ferran Torres particularly highly in the context of taking Real Madrid on over a campaign. I just don't like... And now they've got another guy, Olmo, who... Look... Very nice, good, as I said, technically very interesting player, but he's just not what they needed, and it's a huge outlay for a club. Like, Laporta can keep going, we're back financially. You're not. Like, they're not,
they're not at all.
They're not
it's
at all.
Total bullshit.
It's, it's complete crap. Like, the fact is they couldn't get a Nico Williams transfer over the line, roughly similar money, but clearly his wages were just something that they couldn't even comprehend. And within a world-class context of a club, his wages probably weren't that much. Like, he would have probably have accepted a certain level to go to Barcelona and reunite with a lot of his pounds there. So yeah, I'm just really slightly baffled that this is the transfer Barcelona have decided to pursue.
Wingers are not that hard to find. There are loads of positions that are really hard to find. So like a number 6 for a top side is hard to find. A centre forward is hard to find. A left-footed centre-back who can play at the highest level is hard to find. Wingers are not that hard to find. Like, now I'm not saying that every winger can go and play at Barcelona's level, but they could take a gamble on a winger for probably 25 to 30 million and like have a reasonable shot at that guy being good. Whereas at this stage of Dani Olmo's career, we know what he is and we know what he isn't. And what he isn't is a proper wide forward. Like, he can play wide, he can play attacking mid, he can cover at centre forward. But when I look at a winger, I'm like, I want them to be a dribble machine, I want them to be creative, and I want them to get loads of progressive receptions. And he doesn't do that at all. At all. Plus, I just think, Dani Olmo's been at Leipzig now for, I think, 5 years. And only once in that time has he got 2,000 minutes in the league. Last season, he got under 1,500. The year before, it was 1,200. The year before, it was 700. Every single season, he misses a large portion of the campaign. And if I'm buying a guy from Leipzig, I want it to be like, this guy played 30 out of 34 games and had crazy output. And only once in those seasons at Leipzig as well has Dani Olmo produced more than 10 goal involvements in the league. Does that scream Barcelona to you? Because it doesn't to me. What screams Barcelona is his passport. So I just think that they're always very small-minded about this, and they could just go and like take a few gambles on like more interesting players. Like that's how this works for other clubs. Like, I'm sure if they'd, obviously it was kind of like made to happen by the fact that he was at Girona, who are owned by City Football Group. But if they'd gone and got Savio or Savinho, whatever we're calling it, I swear he was called Savio and his price tag was 15 mil. And then he was called Savinho and his 40 mil. And I was like, this that meme come to life. But he still went for less than market value when you look at his output last season. Well, if Barcelona had got involved, I bet his head would have been turned. If Barcelona had said, do you want to be our starting left winger? I guarantee that he would have been like, oh, maybe I don't want to go to City. And I don't know, I just think that there are other options out there. So it seems weird to say we're going to pay roughly twice as much as we need to for a guy who we know doesn't do the thing that we need him to do. It's better to get a guy who potentially could than a guy who definitely can't.
I also wonder, like, have a look. One of the things in the last few years that's been really, really positive for Barcelona is La Masia. Like, you've had a lot of academy graduates come out to there and fit into this side really, really well. You're telling me there's not a left winger in there that you can't give a try or give a chance to. You've just brought in Lamine Yamal, who's been incredible. You've seen a few others come through as well. That have done a great job. Is there no one there you can give a chance that you have to spend £60 million on this guy to put a square peg in a round hole?
Is Fermin Lopez still on their books?
Yeah. He's been playing for them pre-season.
Yeah, and he's been at the Olympics. He's been pretty much Spain's best player. He's a super talented guy in a similar position to Olmo. So
it's really interesting. Barcelona continuously doing crazy things, and we'll see how that works out for them this season. This one comes from Joe Dorr, and he says, Fullkrug, I could be wrong, but close to £30 million on a 31-year-old is risky. Could hit the ground running, but could easily be another Wout Weghorst. I'm interested to see how it goes. West Ham and strikers has been an interesting relationship. By March, will it be Antonio up top, Pat?
I don't know if it'll be that, but I think this is a really bad transfer, which is not to say I think the player is bad. I think the player's pretty good. Or, no, he's okay. So last season he got 20 goal involvements in the league, but he got 8 assists from 3 expected assists, which is not great. So 12 goals, like he's at about 2 shots a game. So his shots are extremely high value, which is a bit of a red flag for me coming out of the Bundesliga, because there's lots of defensive breakdowns in the Bundesliga, lots of transition football. There are a lot of forwards in that league who have very high expected goals per shot, as in like the chances they're getting are really big chances, but they're not getting a lot of shots. Well, my worry is that the Premier League doesn't have as many defensive breakdowns. It doesn't have as much transition football. And if you're not capable of getting shots, lots of shots, then my worry is that those high probability chances turn into mediocre value chances, and suddenly you don't really have, much to go on. He's 31.
Yeah.
And my big issue here is that I think it's risky as it is now. As in, I don't think there's a guarantee that he lands and is good now. But I also don't rule it out. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a good first season. Like, really.
Yeah.
Like, truly, I'm actually quite bullish on West Ham generally. However, this contract is going to hurt in 2 years' time, because this contract takes him from 31 to 35. It's a 4-year deal. And maybe they just think, you know what, 2 years' time, we will try and sell him back to Germany for like 3 million. But the wages that he'll be on, because when you're paying 30 mil for a striker on the last big contract of his career, he's probably asked for what is a big wage for him, which is also a big wage for the Bundesliga. So my worry is when he gets to 33, they are going to be trapped under this contract and desperate to get out. So I don't think he's a bad player. I think it's fine. I think there are other things that they could have done this summer that would have made more sense, and also wouldn't have been like significantly more expensive. Like, for example, obviously, like if Chelsea are interested, he's going to want to go to Chelsea. But this Chelsea move for Omarodion is not that much more money, and he's a 20-year-old who played for a crap side last year. I think single-handedly got 30% of their XG. Like, can run in the open field, though I think he's kind of horrible dribbling, horrible touch. But that's fine. He's really young. Like, if they'd gone and done that, I'd have been like, great.
Well, they were linked with John Duran for ages, and in the end that move fell through.
But then that guy hasn't played. Like, I mean, he's got like 5 shots.
He's a myth.
Five shots in the Premier League.
I am actually way happier about this transfer.
Wow. Okay. Go on, Hennes.
The money is ridiculous. I couldn't believe it when I saw that fee, considering what Dortmund bought him for, which wasn't very much.
No.
Anyway.
After he'd had 1 good season in the Bundesliga. He's had 2 good seasons in the Bundesliga ever.
And I think he's still been starting for Germany a lot. Like, I still think he's a really good striker. And I think, again, you said it at the start of the segment, West Ham's odd relationship with strikers. Really, I sometimes don't think they care about making money. Like, I don't really understand the way their finances operate. But Scamacca ended up making a big loss on him. Haller made a big loss on him as well. I think Fullkrug almost has a bluntness to his game. This transfer is designed purely to be a success for the next few years. It's not designed. He's not. It's like a car where you buy it and it immediately loses value. He's lost value the second he's arrived at West Ham, because every day he gets older and every day he's just
every day he gets older. Yeah,
no, do you know what I mean? No, he's not. They're not
depreciating.
They're
not.
Yes, they're not buying him to be a world-class striker. But I think we have to remember he's not particularly mobile. I don't think he's someone who's going to lose loads of instincts with age. There's plenty of strikers in the Fullkrug mould who have continued to be good into their mid-30s. I think Giroud, etc. I think, considering the failure they've had investing in young strikers, this is, for me, fine. Because if you look at the other deals that they've done throughout the rest of the side, bring in Somerville to complement Kudus, they have even like the free transfer of Guido Rodriguez at centre back. Centre midfield, Max Kilman, young guy at centre half. Fine, they've got enough development in there, and now they've got an experienced head to lead that line. And like as we said, Antonio's been doing. He's been running around and doing a job for them, and he's pretty old at this point.
Kudus can play midfield. Kudus can play striker. Bowen can play striker.
They've also brought in Guilherme, who's like a young right winger out of Brazil.
From Brazil. Yeah.
So I have no problem whatsoever them going, look, investing in young strikers doesn't seem to work. Let's just get an experienced bloke who we can just whack up front and get some. And if it means they can have 2 years and then find another striker to fill that void, fine. Like
if they can get 2 years, then fine. But then they're still kind of overpaying for it because there was another rumor that they were. I think the idea of just like, well, we've messed up on young strikers in the past, and therefore we should now get an old striker. Like that seems. That's not logical.
That's not fundamentally what I'm saying.
They could have gone and got like, for example, they were linked with Eli Wahi, who was supposedly available for about 25 mil, who is young and is much better.
Let's go to Marseille.
Like they could, but they could have like gone and done something like that. Even if they'd gone to Arsenal and been like, Eddie Nketiah, apparently you're selling, was potentially going to go to Marseille for 17 million. Who's like a homegrown centre forward? Like we'll do that because who cares?
Yeah,
like 17 million, sell him to the Championship for that.
I'm saying they've gone and got someone who is ready to go. They've got someone at the top of his game who is ready to go right now, instead of looking for someone who's going to like work his way into the Premier League.
No, but that's assuming that like Fullkrug is. That's saying that Fullkrug is like at this level right now, and you buy a young player and they're at this level right now. Whereas actually Fullkrug is at this level right now, and you could buy a young forward who's better.
Well,
is my theory. I just don't think he's very good.
He's an upgrade on what they had previously up there.
That's certainly true.
Antonio, and I think for a 2-year stopgap for them to really figure out what kind of striker they're looking for, I think this is actually quite a smart move. A huge overpay. I completely agree on the overpay. I can't believe about that, but I'm not too down on it because, as I said, West Ham's finances are very mystical. They seem to spend a lot of money.
They got a lot of money from Rice, didn't they? I guess.
But what are they going to? But what are they going to be able to do in 2 years' time? They're also going to lose Paqueta for nothing. Like that's going to be a loss, and I don't even know if they'll be able to like get out from under the contract. Like presumably they will. Presumably there's some sort of like they won't have to pay his wages. Yeah, but the question isn't so much like what does this mean they don't do now? It means what does it mean they can't do in 2 years' time? Like when you say in 2 years' time they can go and get another forward, maybe they can, but maybe they can't, and they have to sell an asset. Because in 2 years' time, like Bowen is going to be kind of knocking on the door of 30.
Well, they gave him a 7-year contract, didn't they?
And also, you're going to still be paying Fullkrug because I don't think you're going to be able to shift him very easily. So that's my worry. It's like the contract. A signing isn't just a player arriving now. It is a contract that you're buying and that you have to pay.
I just sometimes think experience is really underrated as a asset.
Well, then you should be happy about turning 30, but you're not.
I didn't say I'm not happy about it. I said I'm just surprised that this happened. But,
same about the transfer.
Look, it's like a funny reaction.
I think I'm excited and I'm happy. It's good. This is natural for this Fullkrug transfer to disagree a little bit. I think it's really interesting to see what's going to happen in the next few years. I just think.
And the rest of their signings, I do really like the rest of their signings. And they have, with the rest of their signings, gone a little bit more like players who will, over their entire contract, still be valuable.
They've also
and can improve.
They've also, you can say, they've probably slightly underpaid for Somerville. They got Somerville for, I think, a really good fee. So, like, between the two of them, you know, they'll have paid, like, 55 mil for Somerville and Fullkrug combined. Well, if they paid 35 on Somerville and 20 on Fullkrug, I'd kind of be more okay with it.
Yeah. No, it's a very good way to look at it. Okay, we're going to move to Manchester United from Brett here. And I think this is a little bit harsh to say overrated. Leny Yorro to United. He's a top talent, but with limited budget. I'm not sure he makes United stronger for this next season. I think that's easy to say now with the added context that he's out for 3 months as well. But what do we make of Leny Yorro's move to Manchester? I know we spoke about it before, so don't need to maybe touch upon it too much more. But I think we were all kind of on the same agreement that like he is a young centre-back who has shown good progress in the last year at Lille. He's someone who could go on to do really, really good things. It's a shame that he's got this injury, that's for sure for now. But I don't think it's one that's going to ruin his career, that's for sure. And the money spent wasn't like... It was expensive, for sure. But we just had a whole argument about how, not argument, but had a whole debate about how Fullkrug's contract could be done in 2 years. Yorro, what was it, 5-6 year deal? By the end of that, it's still going to be very valuable.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just talking in different ways. Like this person who's like, does it make them stronger this season? Like, probably not really. Like,
Well, he can't be any worse than say Varane last
he's a-
season, who didn't play.
Well, he could be because he's a teenager. Like,
But
as
Varane
in, like, sometimes, Varane not playing, sure. But, like, as in, like, would I rather have Maguire play?
Sure.
Or, like, a kid who is not ready? Like, well, that's an open question. It depends what I'm trying to do. Like, I don't think that they are going to be competitive for the top 4 next season. But we've been saying for ages that they need to forget about that and build for the future. So I'm perfectly happy with them doing this. It was an overpay. I also think he's a good player. I think it's completely fine. The injury doesn't really affect it because, as you say, it's a long-term contract. So losing the player for 3 months isn't that big a deal when they're a kid. But United need to accept that they're going to get worse before they get better. And that means that they're going to have to blood these kids and give them tons and tons and tons of minutes. Like, that's how it's going to work.
And Ten Hag has been good at that. He has given a lot of young players decent minutes to develop. We've seen Garnacho on the left wing, bringing in Rasmus Højlund as well. Trying to think who else they
He
played.
didn't really have much of a choice there. Like, I don't actually think he has been particularly good. Like Mainu, obviously, yeah, but but I also think these things were forced by injuries.
Yeah.
They just need to bulk that squad out. Like when he says they needed to do other stuff or whatever it was, like they had other needs. Like sure, but like centre back was a major need. Like now, if they only got Yoro, that is concerning because they need more. Like they just need more numbers. They don't have a big enough squad. Like I need to have another look at their squad, but I swear it's incredibly worrying.
And they also got 3 injuries in pre-season as well.
Yeah, but that's fine.
People moaning about the idea of Sanderberg going there. They had like Amrabat there, who was crap. Yeah. So Sanderberg, if you paid low money for him, is fine as a squad player.
Still after De Ligt as well.
That's good. If they're going to get De Ligt, good.
Yeah,
because that sounds cheap.
De Ligt would be more. It's a big jump being a teenager playing for Lille, who don't even sell out their stadium, and no one really has any expectations to going to United, which is the most toxic place.
He was going to go to Real Madrid.
I know that's a good thing.
But he'd have been.
He would not have been expected to start at Real Madrid. Whereas here, we're suddenly going, oh, we need you in the starting squad straight away. So yeah, I think I'm willing to just see how this one plays out. I don't want to like slag off an 18-year-old going to United.
And Real Madrid's superpower as well is actually how they bring young players along.
They do, yeah.
Like, we can all say, oh, wow, they went and got Rodrigo when he was a kid and they went and got Vinicius when he was a kid and, like, they turned out to be stars. But you're like, part of the reason they turned out to be stars is also because Real Madrid don't loan those guys out. Yeah. Like, if it were another club buying one of those players as a kid, then you'd expect them to kind of loan them out to, like, Ligue 1 or the Championship or something. But Real Madrid don't do that. They often keep them with the squad and gradually build them in once they do arrive. And both of them have ended up being, one of them's ended up being world class. One of them has been very, very good, I would say. So I think Real Madrid would have had a smart plan for how they were going to integrate him in the long term. Whereas Man United, my worry is that they'll be like, you start every game you're fit for this season because we don't have anybody in the squad. So it might be bad if the idea was it would fix the defence in one go. It might be bad if it means that they got 160 million centre back instead of 230 million centre backs. But as a signing in itself, I think it's a good signing. Okay.
Well, you mentioned Real Madrid there. We've got this one from Benito, or Bananeto, something like that, I don't know. Sorry, mate. Mortia, I think is your at. He has said Endrick. Real Madrid and Endrick. He says, I see a Renier, who's the Brazilian kid they had as well? Ranieri?
Oh, yeah. Renier.
But
he went on loan to Dortmund and did nothing.
He basically says, I see that situation because they have now got really great depth up front as well.
Well, I think just to echo exactly what Pat said, no one is expecting Endrick to start in this Real Madrid team. He's 18? And actually, if you look at his record for Brazil, if you look at his goal scoring record back in Serie A in Brazil, on both accounts, really strong, undoubtedly talented. Again, I don't think it matters. Like the money they spent on him, he's not going to start over Mbappe. He can sit in that squad for a couple of years, watch Mbappe, Vinicius. He's going to be fine because there's loads of Brazilians there. It's all going to. It's really not a big deal whatsoever. Like Endrick coming there, I don't think anyone's expecting him to do well. He'll get minutes in the cup competitions. Again, as we said, loads of football this year. Madrid are in the Club World Cup as well. Yeah. Another 7-game tournament. So he'll have minutes to show what he can do. But he's going to have a masterclass from Kylian Mbappe and the rest of the Madrid players that are there already. So there is no... Renier was crap, and that's that.
Yeah.
Let's not judge Endrick before he's even... I saw some stat on Twitter the other day. It was like, no goals in 127 minutes.
For Real
and everyone
Madrid.
like railed on it going...
What, for pre-season?
They were like, Endrick's not having the best start at Real Madrid. And I thought, 127 minutes? Come on. It was just like a shameful stat. So yeah, I've how can this be overrated
And
when they've
also,
proved that they can use this formula so many times?
I think we have proof here of someone calling someone out early in their career at Real Madrid, a certain Vinicius Junior.
I didn't call him out earlier. I called him out 3 years into him doing nothing.
There you go. Okay, my point being, right, these guys were 18, right, and after a couple of years, can very quickly change things on how they're
Pat
perceived.
actually agreed with me. He whispered off camera once to me, your take on Vinicius is 100% true.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like it happened.
We'll see what happens with Endrick. I think it's an interesting situation. Our final one, and this one comes from Chelsea IQ. He said, Julian Alvarez to Atletico. I want to make this the triple header. And the circle. Julian Alvarez to Atletico, Gallagher to Atletico, and then Omar to Chelsea. What do you make of those 3 moves, fellas? We spoke a little bit about Orion already. You mentioned he's
very young.
Very young, yeah. He's 20.
Pretty raw.
Very raw. Whether he starts for Chelsea week in, week out,
That
we'll
is
see.
the worst transfer out of the 3 if you had to rank them. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, he gets shots. He scores goals. Like I think he'll have some value. I don't know if it'll be at Chelsea.
He's just the classic Chelsea
He's totally
thing
fine
right
signing.
now. Like, high potential player, could be good. If not, might get moved on. Like Datcher for Fana 2.0.
The other 2, I think, are fantastic. Like I think the Alvarez fee is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's not so crazy that I wouldn't necessarily do it if I'm Atleti. I just think it's like 20, 25 million too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think as a player, it is perfect for them. Like, Griezmann's going to go, right? It looks like he's going to go to LAFC. And the thing about Griezmann is Griezmann was never amazing at any one thing, but he was very good at everything. Like, he was a really good presser, really creative. In his early career there, he was incredible at basically running counterattacks all by himself, where he'd just dribble upfield. Great goal scorer, good passer, like just had everything that you could possibly want. And Alvarez is kind of the same. Like, Alvarez has good shot volume. He's a really good dribbler. He's pretty creative. He's fast enough. He's got amazing defensive intensity. Like, I think he was like in the top 1% of like stats bombs, like player rankings for pressures per 90 last season. Like, he's a super hardworking guy. He goes there with no language issue. It's easy to see how he could fit into a number of roles for them.
I really like him.
I think they've overpaid, but not so much that I care, because I think they've slightly underpaid maybe for Gallagher, because Gallagher is one of the most obvious stylistic fits I've ever seen. Like, player manager, I just think they'll love each other. Like, Gallagher just works his arse off.
Run there.
Yeah, exactly. Gallagher can take tactical instruction. He's a plus defender. He also can burst into the box. To me, I think I said this on the Transfer podcast, but like, Marcus Llorente had that really huge season there a few years ago where he got like 20 goals and assists in the league, and he was massively out over his skis. He had like 9 expected goals and assists. And since then, he's been basically crap. But what he did that season was like run around, like winning the ball back, and then absolutely hair forward on the counter-attack and get into the box. And that is Conor Gallagher. That's exactly what Conor Gallagher is. And he's 24, he's peak age, like, he's pretty fit, he's like been fairly available.
Fit, yeah.
No, but I mean, as in like quite durable.
Yeah, not
like,
injury. Like,
yeah.
injury, not he's like doesn't get injured. That's all.
I think he'll love it. I think it's
He's got a
great.
good shot on him. He can score goals.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I
I
think-
think he'll be great. I think Simeone will love him. I think he'll turn up and Simeone will be like,
And the
this
fans
is
will.
my
I think
guy.
It'll
I
be
love him.
It'll be great to see him actually. I think be appreciated. I think I think during his career at Chelsea, a lot of people have kind of put a lot of criticism on him throughout it as well. And I think he'll be really appreciated, especially by the manager there, and also like he's living in Madrid.
Yeah,
It's not too bad.
I think for
It's
him
not
it's
like-
such a win. This could not have gone any better because they can pay good wages too. I think he's on about 200 grand a week.
Yeah.
I've seen a few starting 11s from Atleti fans saying, he doesn't get in over Rodrigo de Paul. I'm like, are you serious? Rodrigo de Paul
I do like him though. He's great.
He's been shoehorned into a kind of defensive midfield role over the last few years when he was bought to be an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
At least Gallagher comes with both of those assets already in his locker. I think Gallagher goes in, Barrios. They've got some really young, fun guys in that squad, and if they can just bulk out the defence, Atleti are going to be really
It was
interesting.
an old squad last year. It was a really old squad
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year. And they've managed to they got rid of Morata. You said they're getting rid of...
Well, you say got rid of him.
Reece.
Like,
Forced him.
he's good for them. Like,
So yeah, they've managed to turn over this squad nicely at the moment.
Palhinha.
And I
João Felix might be going.
And I think for Alvarez as well, playing like Sorloth, I'm not hugely sold on him. 32 million euros for Sorloth after a few redemption seasons at Villarreal's fine.
I thought he was fantastic last season.
He was fantastic, but he did score 4 goals in his final games.
Better than Dovbyk last season.
Where did Dovbyk go in the end?
He's gone to Roma. Dovbyk's gone to Roma. But yeah, I think Alvarez playing off Sorloth could be really fun next year.
And also, this is like a real problem Atleti have had. When you say it was an old squad, for the last 10 years, they have basically done the same thing again and again. Like, they even brought players back. You know, like, so for example, they brought back Yannick Ferreira Carrasco. Like, he went to China and then they were like, come back. Because Simeone basically he's kind of daishy in that he seems to be a little bit scared of the new thing. He's like, I need guys who like know what to do. I prefer veteran players. I like guys who know me. And now you look at that squad and you think these are both peak age players coming in Gallagher and Alvarez. They've also got Samuel Lino, like, who's very, very young. They're trying to get Javi Guerra from Valencia, though it looks like those talks might have fallen through. But I don't know, like, they've needed to do this for a long, long time. I think it's smart. Like, when I look at the shape of that Barcelona squad, I think, well, Yamal's a star, but Lewandowski really took a big dip last season. And is at that stage of his career where you'd expect it. Yeah. I look at Atleti's business and I think I'd expect them to be right there in the hunt for the title this season. Mm-hmm. I don't see any reason why you'd really favour Barca over them.
Even Lenormand at centre half is good.
Yeah,
it's
bringing him in as well.
Business.
They've done good business overall. I think it's interesting. Be interested how they do in La Liga, guys. If I had to ask you, who is the most overrated transfer so far on the 8th of August 2024? Obviously, some more transfers might happen. You both weren't massive fans of Olmo. Would you give it to Olmo?
Probably.
I don't know if it's overrated. I don't think it's just
the wrong
so
transfer.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
All things considered, so unnecessary. So that's probably my least favourite transfer.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other stuff I hate.
I
do think if Osimhen goes to PSG
Palhinha
for like 120 mil, I think that's crazy. Like, he's just not fit enough to do that. Like, PSG win that league anyway. I don't think he wins them the Champions League. Like, I really like Osimhen. He's fantastic. He's not very fit. And they've also got an absolute ton of attackers. They've got Gonzalo Ramos. They've got Colomwani. They've got a ton of guys there. I don't know why they're so dead set on like.
Didn't they bring someone else in from Frankfurt recently?
We must get this guy.
No, they bought a centre half.
Was it centre half?
Yeah, I don't know why they're like, we must get this guy. Like, what? He has to be the person. It just seems silly to me.
There's always a thing with me and I've said it for.
I also wouldn't pay 60 mil for Mark Guehi.
Yeah, Newcastle.
I like the player. I do like the player. I think he'd be good for Newcastle, but that is crazy.
It's a big
crazy
fee,
money.
Big fee, which does look like it actually might be happening as well. But there we have it, guys. On the 8th of December, August, those are the transfers so far, and what we think of your opinions on overrated or not. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below as well. Get them down there, and on any transfer rumours as well. We'll be back next week, of course. We're going to be doing our Premier League predictions. So get ready for that. Henry Hill, if the lovely people at home want to check you out more, where can they see your face?
You can find me, go on the Football Joe TikTok and Instagram. You can see me doing things there, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Otherwise, just follow me on socials, I suppose.
Beautiful. And Patrick Van Straten?
You can subscribe to my podcast, Unseen Incidents with Patrick and Pete. We have a Patreon, which gives you extra episodes and you can ask questions. So please do sign up for that because I want the money. Also, I'm working for the Transfer Flow. So I do a couple of podcasts over there with them a week. We're talking through transfers at the moment, but as the season goes on, we're going to start talking team analysis. We're going to talk some managerial breakdowns. There's going to be loads of stuff like that. But right now, it's a really good place to get your kind of roundup of transfers and get a more... I don't know how to put it.
Analytical?
Yeah, a more analytical take than you might get from Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good way to put it. All those links will be in the description below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys very, very soon.